Imagine a late evening in the late 1960s. In a small garage in Daytona, yellow light reflects off scratched silver metal. The sound of hammers striking, grinders screaming, and in the haze of cigarette smoke, a man wearing a cowboy hat bends over a small engine block, the 283 Fuelie. That man is Smokey Yunick. For Smokey, rules were not barriers, but merely suggestions to break. And this 283 Fuelie block is the clearest proof. It is small, compact, and harmless on paper, but under Smokey's hands, it became a machine that even GM did not want to talk about. Because this engine was too powerful, too sophisticated, and too dangerously legal to the point that it could shake the systems of both GM and NASCAR. Before talking about the 283 Fuelie, we have to talk about Smokey Yunick, the man who never accepted the idea that a small engine must be weak. He was born in a poor rural area, grew up around old machinery, and taught himself to fix everything using intuition and a rare kind of stubbornness. During his service in the Air Force, Smokey learned lessons that no technical school could ever teach. Absolute precision, the ability to understand physics under harsh conditions, and especially a mindset that never allowed limitations to decide the outcome. When he returned to Florida and opened a garage with the defiant name, "The Best Damn Garage in Town," Smokey walked into NASCAR like an alien. Racing teams at the time were pouring money into massive engine blocks, 348, 392 Hemi, 409. They believed that whoever had more cubic inches would win. Smokey thought the opposite. He believed that cubic inches were just numbers on paper. What determined speed were aerodynamics, compression, heat, fuel pressure, and tuning done to a near-obsessive level. In that context, Chevrolet introduced the 283 Fuel Injected. This was not a large engine built to show off brute strength, but a product of modern thinking. It was compact, efficient, and especially equipped with the Rochester Fuel Injection system, a technology that many engineers at the time were not even confident could work reliably on mass-produced cars. In its standard form, the 283 Fuelie produced around 283 to 290 horsepower, an extremely impressive figure for such a small displacement. Its small block design made it light, rev-friendly, and more flexible than larger engines. However, it also had inherent weaknesses: airflow that was not fully optimized, outdated combustion chamber geometry, a compression ratio that did not reach its full potential, and a Rochester fuel injection system still limited by the fuel pressure technology of that era. These technical gaps were exactly what attracted Smokey. He saw what no one else saw. NASCAR's cubic inch rule unintentionally made the 283 the perfect choice. It was small, so it was legal, light, so it was flexible, and most importantly, it still had many technical doors waiting to be opened. As soon as he began working with the 283 Fuelie, Smokey Yunick did not think the way Detroit or NASCAR teams usually thought. He did not look at size, did not wonder how small it was, and cared only about one question: how can it burn fuel as efficiently as possible? And that question opened the path to turning an innocent-looking small block into something that made NASCAR inspectors check it 3 times and still find no violations. Smokey's first step was to attack the compression ratio directly, a factor most teams avoided because of fear of detonation. In an era of low-quality leaded gasoline, raising compression too high meant the engine would self-destruct. But Smokey did not want safety. He understood that if he could control combustion, heat, ignition timing, and airflow in the cylinder, then high compression was not dangerous, but a source of free power. Smokey began by redesigning the combustion chamber. He ground, polished, and reshaped the chamber to create swirl. Not just polishing for looks, Smokey adjusted every edge so the air-fuel mixture dispersed better and burned more completely. This allowed the compression ratio to jump from the stock level above 10:1 to 12:1 or even 13:1. Many GM engineers who heard that number thought Smokey was crazy, but dyno and track results said the opposite. The engine ran smoothly, produced strong combustion, revved cleanly, and showed no signs of pre-ignition. After pushing the compression ratio to an unbelievable level, Smokey moved to touch the Rochester Fuel Injection system. In GM's eyes, the Fuelie was a new technology requiring cautious testing. In Smokey's eyes, the Fuelie was a door no one had dared to open. He increased fuel pressure, adjusted injector angles, and even modified the fuel pump to prevent pressure drop at high RPM. This made the Fuelie behave like a high-performance mechanical injection system instead of the gentle fuel system Chevrolet intended. But Smokey did not stop at fuel. He continued attacking the most important factor: air. To Smokey, air was not just something an engine inhaled, it was energy. If controlled correctly, air could create power without increasing cubic inches. Smokey changed the intake port angles, reshaped manifold curves, and created a high swirl airflow right before the mixture entered the cylinder. The result was that the 283 Fuelie now breathed like a much larger engine. The mixture entered faster, blended better, burned more efficiently, and directly increased power output. When these changes combined, high compression, strong fuel delivery, stable airflow swirl, the 283 Fuelie began showing strength. No one believed possible rivals thought Smokey had increased displacement. GM thought he replaced the engine's internals with something mysterious. NASCAR thought he was cheating, yet every inspection ended in disappointment. Everything was within the rules. And then Smokey unveiled the fourth magic trick, the one that left other teams stunned: reducing engine weight without breaking a single rule. Smokey understood that a lighter engine did not just improve acceleration, but also stability at high RPM. He replaced pulleys, bolts, and some manifold components with lighter materials. Some parts he hollowed out internally while keeping the outside dimensions unchanged, enough that inspectors could not detect anything with the naked eye. This was the trick that made NASCAR speechless. They measured size, cubic inches, and vehicle weight, but there were no rules about the weight of individual engine components. Smokey simply took advantage of what the rulebook overlooked. In the end, all these improvements combined to create a 283 Fuelie that could not logically exist by the standards of that era. A smaller, fully legal engine that was powerful enough to make the big 348s, 392s, HEMIS, and 409s nervous. As soon as the 283 Fuelie, tuned by Smokey Yunick, began showing its overwhelming strength, the atmosphere in NASCAR immediately became tense. Teams that were used to the logic, the bigger the cubic inches, the greater the power, simply could not understand why a tiny 283 could shoot down the track like a much larger engine. The acceleration, the ability to hold high RPM, and the mid-range stability of the Chevy prepared by Smokey left them literally confused. Suspicion spread from the very first practice laps. The Chevy 100s and the lightweight models Smokey chose did not look impressive at all, but once on track, they launched with indescribable force. Many crew chiefs said the way the engine climbed through the RPM range felt as if someone had secretly added displacement to it. But the most notable thing was how it surged in the mid-range, a place where a normal 283 should have run out of breath. These abnormalities sparked a rumor that began circulating through the paddock. Smokey had enlarged the bore. No one needed proof to believe it. The numbers on the timing sheets were enough to make everyone nervous. They believed Smokey's 283 could not possibly have that kind of power unless it was bigger than the number on the paperwork. NASCAR reacted immediately. Smokey's engine was brought into the tech inspection area and stripped down piece by piece. They measured bore, stroke, weight, cylinder wall thickness, manifolds, and even inspected the piston crowns to check for signs of increased displacement. But every measurement was exactly within the tolerances allowed by the rules of that era. They checked a second time, then a third time, and the results stayed the same. This put NASCAR in a difficult position. They could not find any direct evidence of cheating, yet the performance of Smokey's 283 Fuelie far exceeded anything they had anticipated when they created the cubic inch rules. The only thing they could do was tighten inspections and gradually add new regulations, all because of one man, Smokey Yunick. While NASCAR struggled with the dilemma of not knowing what to ban, General Motors quietly observed everything Smokey was doing. They understood that Smokey was not a rule breaker. He was someone who recognized the technical gaps that mass production lines could not exploit. The modifications he applied, from high swirl intake flow, optimized combustion chambers, extremely high compression, to a meticulously tuned Fuelie system, were all beyond what mass manufacturing could reproduce consistently. GM realized that Smokey's performance gains did not come from a single modification, but from dozens of small, precise, sophisticated changes that worked together seamlessly. And this very reliance on manual, artisan-level tuning made it impossible for GM to commercialize a Smokey-style configuration. Beyond the technical issue, GM also faced a market problem, a small 283 that produced power equal to, or even surpassing, larger engines such as the 302 or 327 would completely disrupt the company's product structure. GM could not allow a lower-tier engine to unintentionally overshadow higher-end engines in the lineup. In the end, everything led to a simple truth. What Smokey created was meant for racing, for the limit, for cars built to operate at the edge where no manufacturer would ever offer warranty. That engine did not meet the needs of the mass market, but it was perfect for speed, and that is why Smokey's illogical 283 Fuelie existed only on race cars he personally prepared and never appeared in Chevrolet's official production catalog. It became a mystery, a question mark, and a legend that even today people still debate. Was it truly just 283 cubic inches, or was it something bigger, smarter, and far ahead of its time? If you've followed the story this far, you can probably feel what made Smokey Yunick a legend. Not because he owned the best tools, but because he dared to see an engine in a way no one else could. And if a tiny 283 could make both NASCAR and GM nervous, then how many other mysteries of the classic mechanical era are still waiting to be uncovered? Now it's your turn. What do you think about the 283 Fuelie? Was it truly just a 283? Or did Smokey leave us a lesson that even today we still cannot fully decode? Share your perspective below. And if you want to continue exploring the stories that shouldn't exist but somehow do, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. See you in the next legend.